it is a great honour for me to be up here and to be introducing Claudia, who I've had the honour of interviewing before at Gefiltefest, and to be watching Silvia cook. Claudia is a doyenne of cooking. She's got her book on Spain, she's got her reissued book on Italy, she's got her exceptionally famous book on the Middle East. She's very well known across the world. And there are few people who've had the level of influence as Claudia has on the way all of us cook, and I think possibly more importantly, the way all of us think about food. It's not just how we cook, but it's connecting what we cook to a place, and that is exceptionally important. Silvia was born and bred in Rome, and she watched her mother, her grandmother, and her great-grandparents cook Italian Jewish food. And she has a rather eclectic background for someone with her level of cooking experience. After school, she spent a year in the States. She went to Israel. She went to Hebrew U, where she got a BA in political science. She then moved to London, got an MSc from the London School of Economics. And obviously, the obvious outcome of going to Hebrew U, going to the LSE, is she's cooking here for us today. And today she's going to be cooking two things for us. One is sardo in sour. Sour? Is that?
Sardo in sour.
Okay, which is sardines cooked in sort of agrodolce method, sweet and sour, beautiful. And for dessert, there's going to be pizza romana, which, as Claudia and Silvia keep reminding me, is not a pizza, okay? It's not a pizza, it's a dessert. And so that's that. So Silvia, you're going to start cooking some onions, is that right?
Sure. I just put some extra virgin olive oil, and I'm going to put the onions, which were in half moons. And I like to leave them a bit longer so they keep a bit more of the texture. And we're just going to shallow fry for about 15-20 minutes while Claudia talks.
Okay, so over to Claudia. And Claudia, maybe you can tell us a bit, as I say, the book's been reissued, Italy region by region. I think we'd all like to hear a little bit more about how you got interested in Italian cookery and how this book's lasted so long and as I say, been republished.
Yes, well, just almost 30 years ago, the Sunday Times magazine asked me to write a series on the food of Italy. Now, when I traveled then, very little was known about Italian food, Jewish dishes. But since then, I've noted a greater growing interest in Jewish culinary legacies. What was interesting about the Jewish community in Italy in particular, well, nowadays the Jews are mainly in Rome, Milan and Turin, but there was once upon a time they were all over Italy, sometime. And the food, the dishes that people remember or are written about in old books, they're really a testimony of the existence of those old historic communities, and they were really scattered all over the country. So the Jews who were expelled from one region to the other, they came to a region that was entirely ignorant of the cooking of the other regions. Until recently, they were ignorant already still. And so what foods they brought from their other region became attached to the Jews, and so associated with the Jews. And those foods eventually developed a new local form, so that it was special, it was a bit different.
Over to Silvia for some cooking.
Thank you. So at this stage, the onions are kind of sweat a bit. They're going to still cook a little bit longer. We're going to put some seasoning, very important when you cook. Black pepper, in Italy black pepper is really the only pepper that is used, and salt, a pinch of salt. And then the unique thing about the sardo and sour, as far as I said, is the sweet and sour, and this element is very much common in Italian Jewish cooking, and that's the Sephardi influence in Italian cooking, perhaps. So the pine nuts and the raisins, they can be found in so many dishes in Italian Jewish cooking, in fish, in the sardo and sour, but also in Rome, also in fish, in red mallets. You do triglie con pine nuts and raisins, spinach with pine nuts and raisins, and carrots also from Venice, pine nuts and raisins. So there is a whole variety of it. So we're going to put some pine nuts and raisins and vinegar here. I like to put a little bit of orange zest with the fish and the onions. It gives a bit of a kick, but by all means you can leave that out. And now we're going to leave it to really slowly cook for another maybe 10-15 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm just gonna quickly show you the fish. Okay, so you can get butterfly sardines like this, and that's how we're gonna do them. So I'm just gonna dust in a little bit of flour, and then we're gonna shallow fry it with some oil.
After 1492 or around then, there was a mass migration of Jews into Italy. They came either from the south to cities in central and northern Italy, and there it coincided with the arrival at the same time of a flow of refugees from Germany, and at the same time refugees from Spain. So they all came about in Venice in particular. So because of this, it created a crisis, like too many refugees, too many migrants, and they decided to put them in ghettos. For hundreds of years, was it 300 years, that the Jews were in ghettos. It's a long time. And during that time, a kind of cuisine is born.
I'm gonna alternate layers of onion sardines and onion sardines and onion sardines. And the sardines that we're gonna try now, I made them on Thursday because it's good to have them to marinate at least 3 days. They're a bit cold because I forgot to take them out of the fridge a few hours ago. But they should be really room temperature ideal. But you don't serve them warm. It's a cold kind of appetizer. Now I don't know if you can see properly. This is the onions, which are really soft. So ideally, you really want to do it in a flat oven dish, okay, or a Tupperware that you can just kind of keep in the fridge. But so just imagine. And we're gonna create a lower layer of the onion, just to make like a little bed, so to say, okay? And then we take a few sardines. So if you were doing in a dish, you probably would end up doing either 1 layer or just 2 layers in a smaller dish, okay? So here we can probably do something like this. And now to put the onion and the pineapple. You can also leave it to cool down and do it from cold, okay? So it doesn't need to be hot when you do this. But you need to be very generous on the amount of onion that you put. Yeah, so yes, you can. And then again, the sardines on top. And then,
That's a murmur of recruiting, I think.
The next thing that Silvia is going to make is pizza dolce, which is a pastry. And I've eaten it. She brought some to me, and they're fantastic. Some of the Jewish communities of Italy were destitute, were of extreme poverty, while others were grand, and the people were close to the royal courts. So there was grand Jewish food and also very poor. Now the inhabitants of the Roman ghetto were the poorest.
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make a dish from the ghetto really, which is called pizza romana. And I said, and transfer, it is not pizza, and it's a dish which is really dear to me. I'm from Rome, and it's if you go to Rome, it's really, you can find in one little shop called Boccione, and it's in the corner in the heart of the ghetto in the main square. It's a small shop, doesn't have any name, but there's a big queue outside. You look a bit scruffy, and it's run by a family of old women, and they're quite unpleasant. And it's a child of the place. So you go there. And you go there and they kind of talk in Roman Jewish dialect, and you kind of lucky you don't understand whatever. But they know that they're like this, and they're kind of almost proud of it. But they bake so well that it's like people don't care, and they just queue. And one of the things that they do is the pizza romana, and the beauty of this dish is that it's a happy dish because it's a dessert that we do for Simchot. So for brits, for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and in Rome on Thursday nights before the event, we do this called mishmara, which is like a party where we meet and we pray, we sing, and of course we eat. And one of the things that are on the table is the pizza romana and biscotti, like a cinnamon and almond things. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna mix the ingredients, which is raisins, almonds, pine nuts, Now here, this is actually the biggest dilemma, because the real thing, they've got this beautiful candied citrus, like mostly they use cedro, a rog, and which you go to Campo de Fiore and you buy half and a rog already citrus, and it's really wonderful. But you can't quite find estrog. What do you use for lulav? Etrog. Okay. And but it's like candied cherries. I found that they were an alternative. You can use the candied peels, but them to be very, very small. So either get a bigger piece and you cut them, or otherwise stick to that. To here we're gonna add a touch of vanilla extract, and usually it's Marsala wine, but there's no such a thing as kosher Marsala wine. So we are going, unfortunately, to use a little bit of about 50 ml. That's about it. And then we're going to do sunflower oil. We're going to mix it together with the flour and the sugar. Here. So we got the flour, so you do the dry ingredients in one. Okay, and then we're gonna add, and this ideally you can also do it overnight. So all the nuts and the fruit, they kind of really get the flavor together. So I'm just mixing everything together, and while I give a bit kind of a mix, and I'm gonna bring shapes, so maybe you can talk a touch more, and then we can come back to this for the last round.
Any questions from the floor?
I wanted to just know, how do you manage to find the border between the Jewish and non-Jewish recipes? Because I mean, I'm Italian, and I'm really not. For instance, the salad and sour, I wasn't really aware of the fact that they are Jewish.
It's very, very difficult. But let's say in Italy now, when I was in Italy, as I said, it was for a festival of history. And the interest in the history of food is relatively new in Italy. It's new of 20 years, maybe maximum 25 years. And so people are looking into it. And so it gets around, and people like to hear a story. And so that's how, with this case, we know. But in some cases, yes, there are reasons. But I know that once I wrote that the Arabs brought pasta to Italy, and my American publisher, the copy editor, immediately said, if you write this, nobody will believe anything in the book. But then the historians of Italy, they were all saying that pasta came in the south with the Arabs. Even in Liguria, some of the pastas there have an Arab name, like they've got a square pasta, and it's called mandili. Mandili, anybody who knows Arabic knows mandili means handkerchief, the square. And they have another one called tria. And in the old Arab medieval books, it's called tria. And a dish that came with my family from Aleppo is called treya. And it's a pasta with chicken. And so, you know, the thing is with words, but actually, most of the time, you eat similar foods. And certainly, the Jews everywhere ate the food of the country. But there are in certain countries, for instance in Turkey, if you go there, the Jews eat what the Turks eat. But the Turks have never eaten Jewish food of Turkey, unless they go to a Turkish family and eat there. Because the food of the Turks, of the Jews of Turkey, is directly from Spain, what they call Jewish food.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to have to call it a day there. Very quickly, Silvia, just want to very quickly explain what you've been doing.
Yeah, no, that's it. You see, I just kind of cut. Usually the original piece comes like a brick. Well, I made more kind of sizes like the one you made. So I would put this on a sheet, greased with paper, in the oven, very high temperature, like 220 for like 10 minutes, 12 minutes. So they cook and they slightly burn, get the color. And then don't touch them hot, because they crumble, they will break it away. You have to leave them to cool down and they become hard, and that's when they're ready. That's it.
So on that rather delicious note, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much to Silvia.